have to ask you, when you and Meryl were performing and you were playing the piano and she was singing, were you doing it live during the movie, or did you tape it? Did you do it and then do it to playback?
Well, everything you saw was live. So, yeah, what was the reason I'm sort of hesitant in answering that is because they we recorded all of the music at Abbey Road, which was
Wow.
for a guy with this haircut is a dream. Um, that was all of my dreams came true at once. There, you got the part at Meryl Streep, and you will be doing this, and then you'll go record an album at Abbey Road. And I said, wait, this is too many dreams colliding. And and then there we were in Abbey Road, cutting an album of opera music. So not my comfort zone or hers, and we got it. We it took 4 or 5 days, and we desecrated the walls of one of the greatest studios of all time, and then we said, whew, and then Steven said, "Okay, great, now you can do it live." And we said, well, and it was sort of a test, I think, because Alexander Desplat, who is one of the many geniuses on this movie, told Steven, hire an actor that can play the piano, and then do it live, because Meryl wanted to sing all of it, and in order to, I think, to create that kind of electric, alive, sort of unknown, all of those scenes and those reactions, and that, when, especially because the music is this sort of, she's kind of the Titanic, and I'm trying to steer her
Away from the iceberg.
yeah, but she's going down, but then there's hope occasionally, but then, and I'm just, I think if we had recorded it and done it to playback, while the editor and everyone in post-production would have been a lot younger looking today, they wouldn't have, I just don't think it would have worked quite the same way.
Did she change it then? If they say take two, did she do it exactly the same?
No, never. It didn't matter whether we were really doing music or not. She doesn't really do. I mean, you're supposed to be present and in the moment, and it should always be different. But even great actors, you tend to sort of find the shape. And it's not that it was wildly different. She didn't bang me over the head with a pot or something in one take just to liven it up. It was all about the scene and the story, and so just
And the
naturally
song
things.
and-
Yeah, so generally things would be different, but with the songs, it was a great metaphor, especially just as an actor, that it was just inherently going to be different, because there was no rhythm, that she had no rhythm, and so then sometimes she had a little rhythm, and sometimes they'd say, that was actually, could you make it worse? And then sometimes she'd forget the words, and sometimes I'd lose my spot, and we were sort of locked into this kind of tandem rock climbing as we tumbled down the mountain together, and occasionally hooked our fingers in for a second, and then and that was really that was what was, I think, beautiful, and working with her obviously is a great lesson in surprise. But it was a great thing to look at the music too, because they actually transcribed the actual recordings. So you could see what Cosme was doing, you could see what Florence was doing, you could see when she skipped a bar, dropped two beats, where she lost her way, where there was where he had his 4 measures to shine, but then he'd slow down because he knew at the end she wasn't going to know to come in, or he'd go really fast so she didn't come in over his big moment, and you could see actually this. And sometimes he'd change keys as though she even knew how to sing in any. Sometimes she sang all the keys. So, but so it was actually this kind of love affair in some way, and it was really interesting. That's what accompanists do. They help they help their singer shine. But so you could really see that relationship where it was totally unknown, and how close she really did come to hitting those notes.
Some of them occasionally.
Honestly, more than not, I think that's why it's strikingly compelling, because I think you'd run away from this movie and from the music if it was just, flailing. So she's really close. She's really delicate too, and she could hit the high F above C. So that's very hard to do. It was just, as Meryl said, it was just the lower notes where she'd sort of, kind of give, because it was also, you could feel her, it's like all she thought about was that high F. So the whole, everything before it and everything after is just kind of like, it's like that one, if you're in a scene and you're like, there's this one speech that's challenging, it's like all you're thinking about is that speech. Everything else just falls to shit because you're just focusing on one thing. And, obviously you're not that you should.
How did you get this role? Was Stephen Frears a Big Bang Theory guy, or had he seen
No,
you in something, or someone had recommended you for an audition?
it was sort of eerily simple, actually. Stephen's a very funny, odd, sweet, laconic, eccentric man who doesn't say many things, and it's hard to often tell how much he's putting you on. So it came about from Kathleen Chopin, who was the casting director, appropriately named. And she had sent me an email. I had worked with her on a small film that I had co-directed and written and was in called "We'll Never Have Paris," and then
that came out 2 years ago.
that was a year before, and then I got an email and I thought, well, this is spam. It had Meryl Streep's name and Stephen Frears. I thought, this is that's very funny. So I didn't understand what was going on, but she said, Stephen's making this movie, and I told him, you're the guy, and I said, okay. So I read the script and I was blown away, and I started fighting, but apparently I didn't really have to. He trusted her immensely, and I met with him and we had a long
Did you meet with
meeting
him in London?
in LA.
And he came to LA.
And I was so prepared. I had done so much research. In fact, I had done so much research that he asked me to forward him all of my research because I don't think he had started yet. And then I said, but this character in this, and he said, can you play the piano? And I said, yes, but I think can you play Mozart? And I said, well, yeah, I play mostly jazz, but but can you play classical? And I just started, yes, I just started lying, and because I wanted to, and can you act and play? And I said, yes, and then we stood up, and he looked me up and down, and I said, sorry, this is the best I can do, and he did not laugh again. And then as we left, he said, what does he look like? And I said, who? And he said, Cosme. And I said, oh, well, he looks like me. And he said, okay. And then he left, and I was like, and I got an Airbnb apartment in Koreatown, very fancy, to get away from my house. And I have two little children who I love, but they don't let me sit at the piano ever or do anything that I want to do except play with them, which is lovely. But so I spent about 3 months in this place learning a repertoire of opera and classical. I took a handful of lessons, but it was just and finding the character. And again, I just kept reminding myself, I'm an actor. No one cares if you play the piano. At the end of this, they're not gonna, except for you guys, sit through the credits till the very end to see, oh, he played the piano. But I wanted to do the character, to be an actor in this. So it was, but the music was a major element, and so for those few months, I just kind of went deep into this and did as much research and immersed myself in this world.
Is there a lot of information out there on Cosme?
No.
Because
shockingly.
How did you create him then? I mean, the look and the hair and the.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough little things, and Nick Martin wrote a brilliant script, and that's mainly it's there. Those are the clues. I mean, but there were things to sort of pluck from his life, but then there were just things that I was inspired by. And one thing, when I took lessons, the teacher said, all because I really wanted to know how how to look like a classical piano player. If I thought maybe they'll just dub me, but at least I need to know about the technique and the posture and the way they sit and breathe. And so I watched a lot of videos and stuff. But she told me about this. All the piano players in the conservatory they had these very long arms. She said that they all would walk around with these very long arms, and because you're told to sort of imagine this weight at the end of your hands, and so when you're playing, it's just you're very relaxed, but it's as though you're not using your elbows or your wrists, but it's as though your hands are being weighed down to the floor through the keys. And I thought that's such an interesting. I remember when kids would come back from high school having had like a growth spurt, which I never did, but I knew of people that did have this growth spurt, and they would always be kind of like out of their body or like a puppy. And so I just that was a big. I don't know. There was something about that clued me into this. I just imagine him somewhat like an alien, sort of coming into his own body and being just learning how to be human in some way.
Right.
And being from he was born in Mexico, and then he moved to San Antonio when he was very little, and then to New York. And I thought, well, that again, there's this sort of alien quality in that, and also his fascination with muscle men and
Right.
what that might be, and why maybe he might not know what that was.
Right.
Why does he like to look at these muscle men and body build, especially in the 40s in New York, when you're in this? It's the place you want to be if you've got any kind of artistic interest or any of that. But at that time, it was illegal to be gay, and I thought, well, maybe he doesn't even know. Those people that pure moment of that innocent moment where you actually you're in a moment of discovery.
I so appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
This has been great.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.